this afternoon. We're going to now talk recovery, and my next guest is Jason Down. He is a recovering addict, and the thing that caught my eye was that he is going to be hosting a webinar on Saturday, I think it is, on the 25th of February at 7 p.m. And the title is Recovery in the Application Space. And this is proudly presented by Tough Love South Africa. They're doing some amazing work, truly putting out a hand to those families that find themselves in deep distress when they realize or find out that their loved one is either an addict or is going into recovery. So let's welcome to the program this amazing young man, Jason Down. I always call recovering addicts amazing because I reckon it takes a lot of guts, willpower, courage, determination, love, and support from a few special people in your life. So I admire these people, and they need all the love, support, and I think encouragement we can give them. Jason Down, good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor and a privilege it is. Thank you.
Privilege is mine, believe you me. Mm-hmm. You've had quite a roller coaster of addiction, etc. And I see that as a grateful recovering addict, having battled a third of your life with denial of a severe substance abuse and, of course, behavioral problems. I look at you on screen this morning. You could be a Hollywood movie star. That's how good you look. So congratulations.
Forgive me. That's the first time I've ever been told that I had the face for TV. I've always said that.
You do.
I've always been told that I've got the face for radio. So I really
believe you me, you look really, really good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How did this all start? How old were you? Does it go to say? Is it almost kind of par for the course that if you're a difficult child, if you have behavioral problems, if you had ADHD when you were a kid, that you're going to end up possibly experimenting and end up being an addict?
I would like to simplify this process for a lot of people because there's a lot of stigma. And for me, stigma is what keeps a lot of families in distress and a lot of loved ones in active addiction. For me, it was just as simple. I did not develop the coping skills, the coping mechanisms to deal with life and all its failings. Now, a lot of people would like to say that there's a particular trauma, there's a certain upbringing. I've got an amazing, loving family and supportive family. They've loved each other. They've lived for us as my brother and myself, and they provided the best that they could. And so I have no failings in saying that it was not my upbringing. Yes, there were certain things that I battled with, and there were certain fears that I created within myself. One of my biggest reasons for why I turned to substances. Now, as we both know, substances are self-destructive in nature. Whatever it is, it could be tobacco, it could be alcohol, marijuana, whatever the substance could be, it's self-destructive in nature. It is poison to the body. So why would anybody want to use that as a solution? Because that's what substances became for me. They were the way for me to escape myself, right? So the one core thing that happened to me, sorry, I do apologize, is
no, carry on.
I created this belief that I wasn't good enough, no matter what it was. I was just never good enough. And that's why I had to have a substance to run away from that belief that was created within me.
There also, you have different addicts have different stories. It's either my mother's fault or my father's fault or my brother's fault, or I was bullied, or I was not the favorite child. And the list just goes on and on and on. And they prefer to get stuck into victim mode. You were one of the fortunate ones. how difficult or how easy? I mean, I see here you were fortunate enough to attend a long-term treatment program where you healed from trauma and the self-defeating thought patterns that were so very self-destructive to your life. How long were you an addict? Because I see that you've been clean for over 10 years now. Am I correct in my reading here?
I have been sober, so there's been multiple addictions, right? So I went into treatment the first time in 2009 for alcoholism, right? I learned from that time alcohol was the problem, and the program had taught me how to shift my emotional state. Instead of seeing it as a solution, I thought how it stole from me, how it turned me into somebody who stole from my family, hurt my family. So I shifted an emotional attachment to the substance, to alcohol. Unfortunately, I had the unfortunate experience of relapsing on marijuana, which now the belief created was that at least it wasn't creating this beast that alcohol did within me. And so, yeah, that was the reason why I say 10 years I haven't picked up a drink, and it's been 4 years without a substance or any other substance in my system.
That's absolutely marvelous. So oftentimes when people recover, whether they, whatever their drug of choice might have been in their wild days, they want to give back. They do give back, and they do make a huge difference. They are in service. You've come up with something that is called now what? Aftercare and relapse prevention. Talk to us about it. That's the one thing. And then I also want to talk about, and you as a recovering addict, do you like that terminology? It doesn't sit well with me. A recovering addict or recovering, alcoholic. It's so degrading. But that's the terminology that's being used. So that's something else I'd like you to respond to. Two things for now, and we'll take the other questions as we go along.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm just putting notes there. So the aftercare and relapse prevention program has been put in place because there were so many people that are actually finding treatment. There's a lot of facilities that we have that are actually doing great work in our country, right? From Sanka as a government, some are government subsidized, all the way to facilities that are charging quite exorbitant fees. However, either way, all of them are all putting together as best as possible to provide that therapy. Now, what we are seeing is that, yes, one is coming through the treatment, they're getting the therapy, they're learning the tools. What we have found is that a lot of people relapse because they haven't got the structure in place to maintain those tools, especially when they go back into an environment from which there's a dysfunction that has been created, because we both know, or should I say, I would like to suggest, is that alcoholism or addiction is a family disease. The behavior of the addict affects the family in such a way that they learn dysfunctional coping mechanisms, such as enabling, lying, manipulating, allowing the person to get away, and trying to help them appease the addict because they get too aggressive if they don't get what they want. So if they go into treatment and the family is still left in their dysfunction without education, without their own therapy and healing, that addict comes out of treatment, goes into the family dynamic, and may easily fall back into the role because the family is still functioning. So the aftercare program, we still continue to offer the counseling sessions per week. We've got a stringent drug testing regime, which I and our clients, we encourage them to take it on themselves to say, right, I am willing to be drug tested to prove that I am doing this for me. And that brings ease to the individual as well as the family members, right? So we've got the counseling, and we try and encourage as much as possible to get into the recovery community, which has been great with the likes of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Tough Love SA, phenomenal groups that are providing those support groups. So there's a new community that you're moving into. So that's what we're providing online.
So where you based in the Western Cape, where else is this type of support that you're talking about? Where else is it offered?
So we are online. So we are nationwide.
Okay.
We've got my program manager is based in Benoni in Johannesburg. My country manager is in the Western Cape, and I'm based in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
we really
All right.
the reality is we've got to meet those people where they're at instead of trying to multiply. That's why we've made it so affordable, because we've made it online. We can reach the person at home.
Okay. COVID has really forced us to rethink the way we work, we live, the way we interact. And I think this is working great for you guys. What also is going to be happening is Tough Love is proudly presenting a recovery in the application space, which you are actually hosting. When is this happening? Is it tonight or Saturday night?
That's happening tonight. Yes.
Okay,
I'm glad for the confusion, because it allows us to offer. So with Tough Love, we're in partnership with Tough Love to provide a self-esteem workshop for the month of March that starts on Saturday.
Is it right? Okay. So
That's
the
what's happening on Saturday.
self-esteem workshop runs for a month, but your recovery in the application space is happening tonight, and very well timed, because I have no doubt in my mind that COVID probably exacerbated a lot of family situations where they've had addicts in the family, because everybody was cooped up, and the mind boggles to think what might have happened in those homes. I'd like you to respond to that as well, but just let's backtrack a minute. This whole issue around being a recovering alcoholic or a recovering addict, to me, sounds very demeaning. How do you respond to it?
I'm glad you asked that, because again, we've got to break the stigma, right? This is very important. So for me, calling myself an addict, right? There's a difference, and there's a big difference. An addict, yes, that could be demeaning, because that means I'm still active. I'm still in the mindset. Now, what we learned through the programming, the restructuring of our mindset, our beliefs, our minds, and our emotions. So we use the CBT model, the DBT model. And for us, I say that I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Wow.
I'm grateful because of my experiences, I have the ability and the compassion that I've learned from what I've gone through and gone through. Now I can be of service to somebody else. It also, what I love about this is that addiction, and I know it's been diagnosed, it's been identified as a disease. So they say addiction is the only disease that can be self-diagnosed.
Okay.
Right. So for me,
but
it's important.
The addict is not going to own up to that.
Not right now, no. But when their current situation in life helps them to identify that there is a community of recovering addicts that can help them be a part of something that is so much greater, so much better than the life that they're living, especially with old using friends and that kind of the culture of addiction, the shift is phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay, we don't want you to give away too much, but you hosting this webinar tonight called Recovery in the Application Space. Is this doable? Recovering addicts are very dependent on a support structure. Can they go it alone? And to me, the application space almost suggests that this is something that you're going to have to do on your own.
I'm very grateful that you brought that to the table. We are simplifying the tools that we learned to practice a life of recovery. So it's journaling, drug testing, keeping accountable. We've got an emergency button. So instead of normally somebody would say, if you need help, you pick up the phone. and you speak to a sponsor or somebody that you trust. Now, what if that person is unavailable at that time of need? So what we've done is we created an emergency contact list that you can put in numbers of people and contacts that you have, that at a push of a button will send out an emergency button to everybody to say, listen, I need to talk to somebody. So it's creating that space that is simplifying what we learn in recovery. It does not take away from the fact that we still need support. We still need interaction. We still need those groups. Absolutely.
And you still you're hard at work on yourself, even though you may not have touched a drink in the past 10 years, for example. What is it that keeps you strong, that prevents you from, like they say, relapsing, or what's the terminology, fell off the wagon or some such thing?
Yep. I had a slip, I fell off the wagon, or I relapsed. Right. So I'm very grateful that you asked that, because for me, it's all about giving back. Right. Yes, I have to go to my meetings. I go to my support meetings because once I've learned the tools and I've done the programs and I understand and I practice it myself, I cannot, it builds my integrity, because I can't tell somebody else what works if I'm not working it.
Right.
Number one. So if somebody would say, listen, I like what your recovery has done for you. I would like a part of that. Please show me how. And so it's literally part of giving back, being in the thick of it. Every day I'm being reminded of addiction, because we're helping people and their families right there and then. And it keeps reminding me of the loss that I've had in my life due to my using. So it's a daily reminder of the pain that it will cause.
Does that keep you strong? And what are the losses that you're referring to, if you can share with us?
I would love to. So in my active days, my behaviors were very abusive, especially with alcohol. So what I would like to say is that what we've also seen with the COVID is that there has been a lot of domestic violence, gender-based violence. And I was a part of that in my drinking days. So because of my behavior, I put my wife and my daughter in danger. Just yesterday, a gentleman was kicked out of his house for relapsing. It was a severe boundary that his wife needed to make. Otherwise, there would not have been any changes. I was in a position to witness this and to be of service to make sure that the family are getting therapy from registered counselors, and to make sure that this gentleman doesn't go to the streets to either go commit suicide or continue using. We managed to put him up in a place so that he can focus on his recovery process. This was a reminder of how my behavior lost me my child and my wife, and therefore created a divorce.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Let me share some hope to that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share some hope, because there's an important part to that. Because of my recovery process, I did not let that pain create a victim within me. I did not use that as a victim mentality. I had to rise above it. And now my ex-wife and I are great friends, amazing friends. We just know we can't live with each other. She will probably kill me, and I'll probably do the same. I have to be honest with that. But we are incredible friends. We co-parent so beautifully. And my daughter, who's 13 now, is doing so tremendously well. And she knows her father loves her and is proud of her. And I'm there to support them wherever I can, because now I'm in a space that I can. Now that I've focused on myself, I am now able to give back without being in that relationship.
What about, so that cost you dearly, obviously, and hopefully you will find another equally fulfilling relationship at some point in your life. Maybe you are in one already. But what about people who are in a relationship? It's very, very tenuous because of the addiction. They then go into recovery, blame the whole world for all their troubles, come out of recovery, and then possibly go into that relationship. Is that a good idea? The relationship was fraught with problems from the word go. Do you foresee that to be? I guess the problems was due to the addiction. But what is your advice? What would be sensible for the recovering addict to do in a situation like that? Or would you then respond by saying that once he or she is clean, they're making decisions with clarity, and they will be able to make the right decisions for themselves, and hopefully that relationship then has an opportunity to start blossoming?
That's a great, I love the insight that you have with these questions, because with regards to coming out of a relationship, and let's face it, any relationship that has addiction in it, there's going to be some toxicity with it. There's going to be some resentment, anger, frustration, pain, hurt on both sides. So yes, as the individual who has the struggle with addiction goes in for treatment, or we take them on board as a recovery program, we highly recommend that the partner gets therapy as well. Number one, they need to both identify their roles as individuals, and so that they learn to grow and heal individually. There was one part where you said, as soon as they have a clearer mind, they're better to make better decisions. Yes and no, right? The reason why I became an addict in the first place is because there's a fundamental flaw in my belief system, in my thinking pattern. And that takes a lot longer, because there's neural pathways that are developed over those years that pull me back into either a victim, blame, shame, guilt, manipulation. Those behaviors get kicked back in. So in the treatment world, and if you're looking at going into inpatient, they highly recommend at least 1 year without a relationship to focus and build your self-esteem, your self-worth, identify your goals, identify where you want to go as an individual, and if you've got anything to give back to the other individual. Because relationship is about giving, not taking.
Absolutely. We've got about 5 minutes to wrap up. Earlier on in the show, you spoke about cognitive behavioral therapy. What happens if you have someone who's an addict, has been for a long time, refuses to go into therapy, goes into a facility to go and clean themselves up, but chooses to go the CBT route? We know it's a couple of sessions, and you get through the process, maybe a 6-week training session, and you learn how to obviously make decisions differently, think things through differently, etc. Is that going to make a difference in the person's life? Could that make a difference in the person's life?
Absolutely. I fully believe in the CBT.
I'm talking about someone in active addiction.
It's a very difficult situation, because we treat our clients, service users, individually, right? Everybody's got a different path, different substance that they're using, how severe it is. Some clients we actually need to get into detox, and we try and get them through our program. Now, we work with CBT, and as you were saying, does CBT on a 6-week course? And my own personal opinion, I have an affinity against short-term programs. We truly believe that detox process. However, this is an emotional and a spiritual as well as a physical problem, which we're just trying to tackle with a psychological solution. It needs a more holistic solution for it.
Approach.
Okay. Thank you.
21 days, 6 weeks rehabilitation. Do you think it works? A lot of people are offering these type. I'm not talking CBT. I'm talking a drug rehab.
Yeah.
what does it take, to get your loved one into a 21-day program or a 6-week program? What else needs to happen once they're out to help them recover fully? Because a lot of young people are hesitant to. You were one of the fortunate ones, or you probably had the foresight to realize you need to be in long-term rehab. Young people these days don't want to spend that kind of time. Never mind their life is in tatters, but they refuse to give the time to heal themselves.
Correct. So also, not to mention, you might have CEOs and business owners and self-employed people that have a problem, but they cannot get into a treatment for long term. So
Right.
yes, there is a very big need for 21 and 28-day programs. However, they do need the long-term support, and that's why aftercare is absolutely crucial, right? They need to follow through, and so that they can learn to turn this into a lifestyle, not just, okay, well, the booze or the drugs were the problem, now I'm fixed. And that's the biggest denial that a lot of people think, is that it's the substance that's the problem. And substance was never the problem.
How does one go about identifying the right type or a strong enough aftercare support group for your loved one to attend? Because you have a lot of these little community-based ones popping up all over the show, and they may not necessarily be the right place or the right fit for your loved one or for yourself, for that matter.
With anything, shop around.
Okay.
Don't give up after the first one. There's so many different avenues. So please try and test. There's certain methodologies that come from different structures. Do test.
Okay, very quickly, Jason, good luck with tonight's webinar on obviously the topic being recovery in the application space. And this is in conjunction with Tough Love South Africa. But you also alluded to a 6-week self-esteem program, which is also going to be done online. Do you believe that people in recovery, pre-recovery, post-recovery, should truly start working on their self-esteem issues? Is that one of the factors that's going to help you stay clean and healthy? Because you're going to feel better about yourself.
I no longer have that fear of feeling good enough. I definitely feel good enough because every morning I practice the tools that are taught in the self-esteem booklet. I used to have a very nasty critic that would always talk me down, always say that I was never good enough, or I was overweight, or I was too stupid. So I have to battle that voice, and it becomes easier and easier. And now I no longer feel like I need to self-destruct and do things that actually are very enjoyable. So yes, it's not even for people in addiction. It's for people that battle with confidence. So self-esteem is a massive thing for people, yeah. Even for those in toxic relationships.
That's where we're going to have to leave it. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. Hopefully we will catch up again sometime in the future. Go well, good luck, and please put out that hand and continue your service. There's many people who needs that hand up to make a better life for themselves. Go well. Thank you indeed. Jason Rondell Down talking to us about online healing. It's exactly 1:01. Thank you for being with me. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed your company. Till the next time, as always, please stay safe, mask up, continue washing those hands, and social distance. Until the next time, as always, it is Assalamu alaikum and Khudafiz from me, Julie Alli.